Hey folks, it's Mike here with Grassroots K9, and today we're going to talk about proofing behaviors, whether it be for obedience, bite work, detection, tracking, just in general proofing behaviors. And I'm going to give you 3 things that you need to focus on regardless of what the behavior is that you're proofing. So when it comes to proofing behavior, there are 3 categories that we need to look at, and they're commonly referred to as the 3 Ds. That's duration, distraction, and distance. Duration, meaning the time that your dog is in position. Distraction, self-explanatory, meaning all those competing motivators that are around your dog. And distance, again, self-explanatory, but the distance that you may be from your dog while they're in behavior. When it comes to these 3 Ds, we also want to make sure that we're not increasing all 3 of them at the same time. So for instance, if we're working on a sit with our dog just learned what a sit is, we're not then going to increase the amount of time, the duration that we want them to be in the sit, while increasing the amount of distractions that's around them, because they're going to be overwhelmed and we're going to set them up for failure. So when we're increasing one of the Ds and we're proofing these behaviors, oftentimes what we do is we decrease our criteria for the other 2 categories. So I'll give you an example. If I'm working detection with my dog and I know that my dog can stay at source odor for 30 seconds with a low distraction environment, when I first start to increase my distractions now, I'm not going to ask for my dog to stay at source for 30 seconds. I may only ask them to stay at source for 5 seconds, and then I'll reinforce them. And then slowly and meticulously increase the distractions, and then let the duration catch back up to what I know that they can do. So we want to increase one of the categories at a time, and then decrease our criteria in the other categories. And when we take a kind of systematic approach like this, it helps all around. It gives the dog time to succeed, but it also gives us a time to measure and see how successful our dog is being within these categories and within proofing these behaviors. Another example of, let's say, distance. Let's say my dog knows a place command, and it knows my place command when I'm within 10 feet of it. I'm not then going to increase all the way to 100 feet away from the dog when I'm first starting to build my distance, right? I'm going to slowly increase. So I say, okay, you can do the place command when I'm 10 feet away from you. Now I'm going to move to 12 feet. But my frequency of reinforcement is also going to shift now. So now I'm going to say, okay, I made it to 12 feet. Let me get back in and reinforce you. Made it to 12 feet. Let me get back in and reinforce you. So we're slowly building that distance up, and we're not increasing the duration of the time that the dog is on that place command. Now let's give an example for distractions. I think first and foremost, most distractions come in the form of competing motivators, right? So a real clear example of this is when we try to first integrate obedience into bite work, right? If we immediately go to the point of, hey, let's get the decoy out and have the decoy agitating and yelling and doing all this at the dog and ask that dog to do obedience, usually we're going to fail, or the handler is going to result to a lot of aversive techniques to get the dog to comply. Whereas if we take a slower approach and we're meticulous and we say, okay, let's start with the decoy really far and let's not let the decoy make even eye contact with that dog. And all we're going to do is ask him for a sit. The dog sits, awesome. We can reinforce them with a bite, or we can reinforce them still by the handler with a ball or a tug or food if the dog will take food. And then we slowly increase the amount of feedback the decoy is giving to that dog in any given moment. If the decoy starts to act a little bit more up or give a little bit more eye contact to begin with, then we reinforce the dog quickly before the dog makes the choice to break out of that sit position or that down or whatever obedience command it is in, and slowly work our way up until we get to the point of the decoy shaking a clatter stick and cracking a whip, and the dog still, it's very clear communication. The dog knows what's expected of him, and then we get into that drive captain kind of element. So as you guys are moving forward, I hope that while you're proofing behaviors, again, whether it's detection, tracking, obedience, bite work, whatever you're doing, you take into consideration the 3 Ds, those categories, and then you want to, when you're increasing one of those categories, you decrease your criteria and requirements in those other categories to begin with, and then slowly work back up to where that you know that status quo was at. All right, guys, we're going to sign off. Like always, please like and subscribe and share away. Talk to you guys soon.